Hello, hope some of you have been able to join Arthur and myself. We're going to have a chat about the first couple of weeks of working lives in the coal mines. And just to start, we've really been impressed by the level of engagement and all your enthusiastic comments and responses. It's very exciting to us, and we have been trying to go through and respond as much as we can in the breaks between the other things that we're doing. So I'm fresh off Working Lives in the Railways, which I know some of you took, but this is Arthur's first online course, is that right? So what have you thought about the first couple of weeks, Arthur, and especially week one, which you were largely responsible for?
I was really impressed by the amount of comments and the quality of comments, Kirsty. And what really struck me was the diversity of people's stories. And the stories that came from within mining communities, from those who are miners themselves, those who have mine ancestors, and just the level of personal detail in those stories really, I think adds depth and richness to the kinds of things we were trying to talk about.
And the fact that we've got all those people from different kinds of mining experiences, people talking about lead mining, people talking about mining in countries all around the world.
Yep, no, it's been incredible. And across the UK, even to the extent of pointing up differences between, or sharpening up the differences between different coalfields. South Wales, North East, Scotland. I was really struck by one of the comments that reflected on the different work cultures between South Wales and that tradition of socialism, syndicalism compared to the northeast of England. So, so that's been wonderful, and actually it's been a really great learning experience certainly from my point of view.
Yeah, and for me, because I've really, Scotland and the north of England are the main focus in the research I'm doing. So especially the people who are commenting on mining communities further south, really interesting.
Yeah, and the insights that have come from abroad, as you say. And one of the really interesting things I thought was the diaspora, people talking about their ancestors moving from the UK, Scotland, Welsh Coalfield, to New Zealand, to South America, to South Africa and elsewhere, and bringing out those contrasts, those experiences. Yeah.
So I think we've both been making a few corrections as we went along as well in relation to the comments. Are there things that you've changed that you think we should be changing in the first week or two?
Yeah, I have, Christine. Again, I think that's been a wonderful thing, the way in which our participants have been willing to share their experience, their knowledge. For example, there were one or two significant criticisms of the way in which I'd framed the Engels quote in week one.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very valid, and went back and adjusted and edited that particular script. And there were other comments pointing up errors in just factual errors. For example, I'd forgotten, it's a terrible mistake, to include rescue workers in the numbers of folk who were killed in mine accidents. So that needed correcting. So no, it's great having positive responses, but also that ongoing critique. It really makes you think and reflect on what you've done.
Yeah.
And emphasise that point that it is a two-way process. It's a learning experience for us too, as well as.
Yeah, I entirely agree. And if we know what people really want from the course this time round, when we run it again, probably in the spring, we'll be able to kind of tighten up things and add more. I mean, it's good. Yep. I find it really interesting with this and with the Railways course how people want more than we've given them. So they're asked, like a couple of people were saying, but where's the rest of this poem? Where's the rest of this material? I'm going away to read all of this novel or this text that you've extracted from, which is brilliant. I mean, I remember leaving a comment saying, our aim is to give everybody the biggest reading list, and that's what people in the comments are helping with as well.
Yep. We've added one or two other links and the leads to and references, which have been wonderful coming from our learners. So what did you think about week two? So what are your reflections on how week two's gone?
It's been really interesting because child mining is it's sort of a fraught topic, and people have really emotive responses, and they're affected by it in lots of ways. We included quite a bit of literary material in that week, which is obviously my special interest really, and that was partly because I guess there's fewer, like the 20th, fewer oral histories from 20th century miners, like the ones you included, and so forth, and because there's so much representation of child miners going on in the Victorian period that, I kind of felt we had to put in some of those poems and songs. But I found the responses to those fascinating. The comments I was most interested in actually were Jennifer singing the testimony of Patience Kershaw, so that was a 1960s version of the 1842 testimony, where it's the first time I've seen commenters so divided, where half of the commenters said, I love the song and it kind of really brings it to life in a new way, and half the commenters said, I don't like the song, it misrepresents Patience's experience, and I really like the original unvarnished testimony, which is an interesting division.
Yep.
And again, in the, we did a kind of fun exercise where we were asking people for creative responses, and the responses are just amazing. You should all be doing creative writing PhDs with us. But quite a few people were also saying, well, is it even right for me to try and do this if this is outside my experience, both historically and in terms of my own experience of labour? But that's kind of a question that I think we wanted to raise and to people to think about throughout the course.
Yep.
How do you represent workers, and what happens when you fictionalise their experiences or when you turn them into poetry or song? It's a way of conveying that historical experience, but to what extent does it sort of falsify it? And I think that'll come up again because we do have more songs. We've got songs in the week 4, haven't we? And they've literature in the surface workers. And did you look at the museum's comments, because those are really interesting as well?
I did look at those, and yeah, some really fascinating reflections from learners. I love the comments about the Jorvik Centre and how museums should try and recreate that sort of sensory experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting comments about the importance of darkness, I thought, and going actually down the mine as you can do in some of these museums, people talking about their experiences of that as visitors, and talking about how you can recreate that with child visitors to give them a real sense of what it might be like. But yeah, also the kind of heat, the noise, the mess, how do you make that come alive? So part of it was, how do you recreate this in the actual mines? And then interesting to have quite a few people talking about new technologies that might help us to do that, like virtual reality documentary, and people mentioned the new Lanark, the Annie
McLeod experience.
Annie McLeod experience, yeah, where you see kind of holograms of child workers speaking to you. Yeah, of course, I was saying to Arthur, we didn't ask you to factor in cost when we were asking you to think about your ideal museum exhibition. So, funding is obviously a big issue for all the museums we've worked with, and that means that you have to be sometimes quite creative with quite small resources.
Yep.
I really liked hearing about all the other museums. I like it that people are going in and, in some cases, commenting on mining museums that I don't know anything about, that I've never visited.
Yep, throughout the world, because they do some wonderful, and really interesting references to museums all over the place.
So many of you could have a good future in museum curation. I think I felt like we should be cutting and pasting all the comments and sending them to our museum colleagues. In fact, it's actually fascinating to see what people are saying. Yeah, and I hope it will. I can see people saying, oh no, I'm interested in visiting the museums, but yeah, if you've got time to visit them during the course or later, tell us what you thought about it. Again, that's to do with our partners in the course and how they have represented the working lives of miners and how we're remembering them, which all the contributions are helping us to think about.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There seems to be a particular challenge in trying to represent child labour in the mid-19th century in these places. Yeah, it is difficult.
So next week we're going to go on to surface workers and trades unionists, and we're going to come back and reflect more broadly and in more length on the course overall at the end of week 4. So make sure you look out for a link for that. And as you have been doing, just tag us if there's a question you've got, if there's something you want us to respond to directly. If you see any problems or errors, as we've been saying, let us know.
Yep.
We're very happy to be told.
Yep. And thanks again for all those wonderful comments, folks. It's really drawn us into, not least into mining communities and what's going on in mining communities these days. And I would just add that the stories that are being told about people's own injuries and accidents in the past and their ancestors is really very poignant, and really brings to mind that issue of work and the body and the embodiment of mining labour.
Yes.
It's been really insightful for us, really useful for us. So thanks very much, folks. And
thank you.
do hope you enjoy the rest of the course.